All right. Let's talk about Obi-Wan. I have seen episode 4. It came out this morning. If you have not seen episode 4, come back later. Save this video to watch later. Jump ahead to Stranger Things 4 if you've seen Stranger Things 4. But let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, because I haven't had a chance to really talk about the whole series so far, I'm going to go through episode by episode, briefly going through episodes 1 through 3, and then really talking about episode 4 and my overall thoughts of the show thus far. So episode 1 opens with this incredible sequence with younglings and Order 66. I think it is just such a bold move. And obviously we know that, well, we don't know this, but we think that Reva. I'm gonna call her Reva. I know that they're calling her Reva or something like that in the show. I'm just gonna say Reva. If that's blatantly incorrect, correct me in the comments. But Reva is most likely one of these younglings. So that's why that this sequence is in the show at the beginning. We'll talk about Reva later on, played by Moses Ingram, but. This sequence was just really cool to watch, just to see the live action clone troopers coming in and seeing a different perspective of Order 66 and seeing just how, what the Jedi Temple really looked like during that time. I think that is such a bold way to open the show. And it was a little surprising to not see Obi-Wan, not in this sequence, but just sort of to not open the Obi-Wan show with Obi-Wan. But I still think that it was a really fun way to do that. Nonetheless. Now, once we do get to Obi-Wan, he's really a broken shell of a man. He is not the same person that we saw in episode 3, episode 2, not the Clone Wars. He is dejected, he is lost, and he really does not want to connect to the Force. Now, as those of you who have been watching the channel know, I am a Last Jedi defender. I am not only a Last Jedi defender, except for the Canto Bight stuff. I think that should have been cut out. But not only am I a Last Jedi defender, I am a Last Jedi Luke defender. I am not going to go out here and say that, oh, you all are loving Obi-Wan in this show, therefore you should love Luke in The Last Jedi. I don't think those two things are the same. So it may surprise you to hear that I am not one of those people who say, well, you should love Luke in The Last Jedi because you love Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan series. I think there are two different character arcs that, to me, work equally as well. But I do want to point out, just quickly before going on to other things, that I do believe that they're different. Just different circumstances and different places in their lives. That being said, I do think it's ironic that where they land up, Luke in The Last Jedi and Obi-Wan, are pretty similar characters, I mean, Luke is a little bit more grumpy, but Obi-Wan is like, hey, I don't want any part of this anymore. The Force, I don't want to do that anymore. So I just think it's funny. I wanted to point that out just because I love The Last Jedi, again, except for Canto Bight, and wanted to, I don't know, make you guys mad, whatever. But anyways, I think the character development for Obi-Wan just straight off the bat is so interesting. And having him be that dejected, lost Jedi is a great way to start the series. We move on with Joel Edgerton returning as Owen. This scene with Reva was so good. So good. I think this is some of the best acting that Joel Edgerton has done as Owen. And I think that this is probably, some spoiler alert, some of the best acting that Moses Ingram has done as Reva throughout the series. Now, just really quickly, I know that this has been talked about before. I just want to put in my 2 cents really quickly. It's not going to be different than what a lot of people have been saying, but I think it's important as somebody who has 700 some people subscribed to the channel, and as somebody who has 10, 20, 30 people listen to this video and this podcast. I want to just give my 2 cents on this really quickly, just because I have some influence and I want to use it. For those of you who don't know, or who do know, at least, that after the first few episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Moses Ingram, the actress who plays Reva, a black woman, got some direct messages from people who basically said that her performance and her acting and herself are just bad because of who she is and her identity. And I just want to make it very clear. I'm not going to, talk about this for too much longer, but I think it's important. If anybody on this channel dislikes Moses Ingram's performance as Reva, that's fine. I personally don't love Moses Ingram's performance as Reva. I think it's okay. And so if you just simply don't like the performance based on the performance, that's fine. It's your opinion. But if anybody on this channel doesn't like either Moses Ingram or her performance because of who she is as a black woman, quite frankly, I don't think you should be subscribed to this channel. It's not the type of thinking that I want anywhere on my videos. It's corrosive. I personally believe Star Wars has some of the worst fans in the entire fandom, and it showed. And if anybody has any inclination to judge another person based on their race, gender, sexuality, identity, anything like that, just inherently calling other people certain things just because of, parts of their identity, then I frankly think that you shouldn't be here on this channel. So that's all I wanted to say about that. And I want, again, it's a preface of me saying that I myself am one of those people who don't really love Moses Ingram's portrayal of Reva thus far through the first 4 episodes. I'm obviously not going to sit here and say it's because of any part of who she is. I just don't think that I like the character that much, and so I wanted to make that clear. Anyways, let's keep going. The Grand Inquisitor, who we'll get to in just a second, I think is actually Rupert. His name is Rupert Friend, I think. Is probably more intimidating than I thought he'd be. I was pretty surprised by that. We can actually, I don't think I have a slide for him yet, or for episode 2, so we'll talk about his death right now. The writers have said that they are not going to retcon canon. They've assured the fans, so we'll see what happens to him. We only have 2 episodes left. I don't know how he's going to come back. Will he? Won't he? I don't know. But you're gonna have to figure it out, guys. I kind of thought, going to episode 4 really quickly, those tanks underneath the Inquisitor base were just clones of this guy. They weren't, but yeah, I don't know. I liked him in the first 2 episodes. I was kind of sad to see him go. And yeah, because again, I don't think Reva's story is as compelling as it could have been. But anyways, yeah, here she is again. On Tatooine, kind of, intimidating a bunch of people, inquisiting, maybe. And yeah, let's talk about Leia. I think that the girl who plays Leia, Vivian Lyra Blair, I believe, or Blair Lyra, I will say, like I said before earlier on in the podcast, I think that she is far too young to be 10 years old. And that's a minor gripe, but it is a gripe because Obi-Wan is set up as 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. And I don't buy this girl as 10 years old, to be honest. However, kind of getting past the first couple episodes where she's running through the woods and parkouring and jumping over buildings, I think that she has grown on me quite a bit. The actress playing the character. I think that the girl does a really good job, the young girl who plays Leia. In terms of character work, though, on the side of the writers and Deborah Chow, I think that getting Leia to be the reason that Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine in the first place is a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. Because how else are you going to get him off the planet? Leia. Makes total sense. To keep her story going on for this long, it's starting to get old. It is starting to get old. Just to say really quickly before we even talk about Vader, that I have adored every single second of Darth Vader on this show. And by second, I mean seconds. There have been maybe 5 minutes of Darth Vader on this show. And 0 Hayden Christensen. And that is a problem that we'll talk about in just a little bit. So I think that the Leia story should have wrapped up a while ago. You have 2 episodes left, allegedly. Ewan McGregor wants us to think there are more. I don't know about that. But yeah. Episode 2, didn't love as much. I think Kumail is really funny. He was obviously really funny in Eternals. I loved him a lot as Kingo. I think he was just playing Kumail here. Didn't really fit into Star Wars, but just a minor gripe. I don't think he'll come back in the show. Again, Obi-Wan just learning to use the Force in episode 2 again, picking up Leia. I think that was really cool. And Hayden Christensen, making his first appearance, quote unquote, as Darth Vader. That's really fun as well. I think that scene at the end of episode 2 was really great. And again, I think that seeing episode 2 back to back with episode 1 really helped, because I think just watching episode 2 after having waited a week from episode 1 would have really been a bummer. And I'm maybe more of a big proponent on like releasing batches of episodes, like episode 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. I still think you get the conversation that you want. Just like how I think The Boys recently released episodes 1, 2, and 3 of season 3, and then we'll release weekly, something like that. I think it works well with shows, Stranger Things releasing 7 episodes and then having us wait a month for the next 2 it's really annoying. But I think that, releasing things in batches but not one by one, I think is a good move. So episode 3, to me, obviously, is the best episode of the series. The confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader, and just really quickly jumping ahead to this shot. This is one of the best shots that Star Wars has ever done ever. This is beautiful. This is wow. We'll get back to that in just a second. But yeah, I think that, this is the promise of the show that I think we were all given. And I'm really bummed out that we have only got 2 episodes left to really deliver on it. Because this episode was really great. I think that this guy played by Zach Braff, who I thought was Seth Rogen for a second, his name was Freck, I think. And then I thought that he was Kermit the Frog for a second. It turns out to be Zach Braff. I thought he was not great. There's Vader again. I'll talk about Vader in a second. This sequence was awesome. I'll talk about it in a second. And I think some of the conversations that Obi-Wan has with Leia are really great. I just don't know if... how do I put this? I think that the things in the episodes themselves are better than the overall story, if that makes sense. I think there are moments that will make really good pieces of Star Wars canon and lore, like Obi-Wan remembering Padme and talking to her about Leia, and making good clips and things like that. It doesn't seem to be fitting the overall story as well of Vader and Obi-Wan that we were promised, but I mean, come on. Look at that. So let's talk about Vader and Obi-Wan in this episode. I mean, everything with Darth Vader in this show has been awesome. James Earl Jones coming back and them, doing whatever they did to his voice. It just works so incredibly well. And that confrontation with him and Obi-Wan, like, obviously, yes. Do I think he should have just walked across or lifted Obi-Wan over the fire and brought him to him? Yeah, obviously. Doesn't really matter that much to me. I think that it was all really great. So that leads us to episode 4. This scene, I kind of jokingly said to a friend that, they could have done Clone Wars flashbacks with the Back to Tank, just like they did with Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett kind of ruined the Back to Tank flashbacks because they were so frequent throughout the show. I actually do really wish they did a Back to Tank flashback here. I kind of like the interspersed, flashes between the two of them and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, I think that, it could have been something else there, something more with that. I'll talk about Vader at the end. Yeah, like this. Okay, so this episode it's the weakest by far. I'll say that first. To me, at least. I think that what bothers me about this episode and what confuses me about the show so far is that this is filler. This did not need to be in this show. And I have had this problem with so many pieces of Disney Plus content. And I'm going to talk about Stranger Things here. I'm going to compare it. I know, doesn't really make that much sense, but it's what's on my mind. I love Stranger Things. Stranger Things so far, throughout 3 and 4.5, 4, or three full seasons, and then like a half, three quarters of another season, which is what, 8, 9, so 17. You're gonna listen to me do math here. How many episodes is that? That's 25 plus 7, so through 32 episodes of Stranger Things. One episode, I think, is completely filler. And it's obviously season 2, episode 7, the Lost Sister. I think that is completely filler. Every single other episode is absolutely necessary. That has a lot to do with the way they interweave subplots together. That has a lot to do with the way that the episodes are long. And that has a lot to do with the way that the show has a complete story. These Disney Plus shows don't have those things. And that makes these episodes, some of these Disney Plus episodes feel wasted. And that's what this episode is. It's a lot of plot, like a lot of just a rescue mission and just kind of going and rescuing Leia. This scene was cool with the water, polling the hallway. This scene, it is what it is. This scene was really cool. Vader just storming in. He's furious at Reva. That's really cool. That is one of the best scenes in the entire show, by far. But these scenes just make me go, what is the point of this show? Because again, we know what's going to happen to Obi-Wan. So you can't, if you kill off Obi-Wan, the fan base is going to riot. But anyways, we know what's going to happen to Obi-Wan. We know what's going to happen to Anakin. We thought we knew what was going to happen to the Grand Inquisitor. I guess we don't. We know what's going to happen to the fifth brother. He's going to come back in Rebels. We know what's going to happen to Owen. We know what's going to happen to Luke. We know what's going to happen to Leia. The stakes in this show do not revolve around what's going to happen to the characters. They revolve around what the characters go through emotionally. Anakin and Obi-Wan specifically. And we haven't gotten much of that in this show. And that's my problem with it so far. I thought after episodes 1 and 2 that Obi-Wan Kenobi could have been the greatest piece of Star Wars content made in a long time. It's not going to be. No matter how good episodes 5 and 6 are, the overall show is not going to... It has its problems. I'm one of those people who don't love The Mandalorian. I like it a lot. It's too episodic. It's too serialized. It's too filler in certain places for me to enjoy it as a full, complete story. Obviously, Book of Boba Fett. Clone Wars I love. But I think the last piece of just truly amazing Star Wars content that they made was Rogue One. And the way that Obi-Wan has been going, I just don't know. Episodes 5 and 6, you can have the best Obi-Wan Vader stuff, and it still might not be enough. We'll have to wait and see.